I'm Rachel Poley with Ari Meglin, and we're your hosts for the Merry Writer podcast. We're on episode 76, and this week's question is, how can you organize your novels using Trello? But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening so you never miss a show. And if you enjoy this episode, please give it a like. So there are many ways you can organize your writing projects. You can use Google Docs, Microsoft Word, Scrivener, or any other writing software, depending on what you use. And additionally, you can also use old-fashioned notebooks and pens, which I still use as well. But there are other websites and software to help you organize anything in your life, and that includes writing projects. So today we're going to be talking about Trello. If you don't know what Trello is, it's a Kanban-style list-making application. You can add tasks, set deadlines, create labels, add images and other attachments, and so much more. The best part about it is that they do have a free version, and you can do so much with it. Like that's the version I use. I don't pay for Trello, and someday I will to give them my money because it's an awesome program. But for now, I use the free version, and I'm able to do so much with it. And I use Trello for many things in my life, and organizing my novels is one of them. And the way I organize my novels, I do it in two different ways. And the first way is that I create a master list of all my novel ideas. Anyway, the first board that I have is that I organize all of my writing projects together. So when I open up my Trello board, which is just labeled creative writing, I have all these different tabs. And the first tab is a master list. And then after that, I have all the different stages of writing, such as research and planning, outlining and setup, writing, editing, so on and so forth. And under the master list, I create cards, and each card is its own book. And what I do in these cards is that I create checklists, which is writing the first draft, editing the first draft, rewriting the second draft, researching, blah, 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 blah. All of that. Everything that you need to do in order to write a book is there. And that includes getting an editor, getting a book cover artist, finding beta readers, and just absolutely everything. And I move each card from table to table depending on where I am so that I can visually see that, okay, I am on the writing stage for my mystery book, but I am on the editing stage for my, one of my short story collections, and so on. And it just helps me get like a massive visual of I have a crap ton of writing projects, and this just helps me see everything in one spot, and I can see just how much work that I put myself through, whether I like it or not. But it's easy to say, all right, this is where this book is, but I should probably be working on that other book so that I can just keep moving them along. And I also don't try to have too many books on the same table. Like, I don't want to have 3 different books under the editing, because then that's a lot of editing at once. So this also helps me spread out my projects.
I have to say, I use Trello a lot. I have so many boards and lists, and it's kind of embarrassing just how many I have. However, I don't use them for my novels yet, probably because my Trello boards are a little bit chaotic at the moment, and adding any more to that chaos is upsetting. So honestly, this episode is going to be mostly Rachel, because her organizational skills just put me to shame. And I always thought I was a really good organized person until I met her. But I have to say, I friggin' love Trello, and I love the free version because I can't actually understand what you get from the paid version because of everything you get from the free version. I mean, we use Trello for organizing this podcast. We use it for all sorts of stuff. Now, to say that I do use it a bit for my writing. I as I said, I'm not as organized as Rachel is, and as she's talking, I'm thinking about making notes because I'm like, wow, that sounds like a really good idea. What I do have is a writing board, like a main writing board. And while I don't have my specific stories on there, and I don't have things like editing and like the stages to move it into, I do have some of the same lists. I do have a researching list, and I do have like a profiles list. That way I've got, certain characters written out on profiles, and then I've got like tick list. I can say, oh yeah, I need to be writing that profile and things. And I also have like a marketing list on there for things like eventually when the goddamn novel is finished and it's actually out, what I'm going to use, what I'm going to do for my marketing. But so even without the level and the depth of organization that Rachel has, I can still say very confidently that Trello is really good for organizing your writing in some way. I mean, my research tabs are massive because obviously I have everything from investigation styles to preternatural mythology to weaponry and everything, and it just helps having these sort of boards and lists that you can move around. So I'm going to back off now and let Rachel carry on because she's getting me all excited to start another board.
We'll say this, that the free version of Trello limits your boards. Like you can only have, I think, 10 boards for the free version.
It didn't used to though. It didn't used to because I had about 50 and then I had to condense them down into 10, which is why I have so much chaos now.
Oh, okay. That makes a lot of sense then. Because right now I think I have one left and I'm trying to figure, like, I need to use this one wisely. You know? And you know what? I should have started the episode off with this. I want to, full disclaimer here, I only started using Trello because of Ari. When Trello first came out, I thought it was such a cool idea because they marketed it to be similar to Pinterest. And when I first started using it, I couldn't figure it out. And it is really nothing like Pinterest, other than the fact that there are different boards and you put cards in them. And I was like, I don't like it. It's stupid. I can't figure it out. I don't want it. And I stopped using it. So when Ari approached me about doing a podcast together, and she was like, hey, I set everything up in a Trello board. And I mean, you talk about my organizational skills, but seriously, guys, Ari had this podcast like figured out and planned and with like color coded boards and everything. And it was amazing. But I have to admit, when I got that email saying, here's the Trello board, I was like, damn, Trello. I was like, I don't want to use it. I don't like Trello. But of course, this was like a couple years later after Trello had originally come out. So when I did start using it for the podcast, I obviously learned how to utilize it. And now I use it for everything. So I blame you.
I think I only did it so well because, as you said, I spent so much time like making the header cards in all these multiple colors and the templates. I love templates. So I created all these templates and colors, and I had to make it look visually appealing. Otherwise, I would not have bothered with it because I was the same. I only got onto Trello because my partner mentioned it, and I tried it and I hated it and I left it for ages. And then I read the book Getting Things Done by David Allen, and his book is brilliant. And then I think there's a Getting Things Done official Trello board, but I think that you have to pay for it and everything. But I have seen copies of it that are dotting around. And I suddenly started seeing the benefit of Trello. And but yeah, as I said, I had like 50 boards when I was allowed to have more, and I've had to cram them into 10, and it's just crazy. And I that's on my list now of tidying up Trello, and it's going to be a big job. So this is why I'm not using it as efficiently as Rachel is.
Well, to be fair, I started using Trello like long after you did, so I never had 50 boards. It's easy to create 50 boards though. I'll definitely admit that, and that's why when they updated and limited you to only 10 boards, I was like, oh no, I have one left. I can't. I gotta I gotta, really think about what I want to use this for. And honestly, like with the cards for the different boards and stuff, and the way that you organize the podcast and have it in rainbow order and stuff, whenever I set up a new Trello board, I probably spend a good hour or two just figuring out the covers for each tab. I blame you for that one too.
The best bit.
It is. You got to make it visually appealing. Yes. And you can change the background for each board as well. So this kind of brings me into my next point. I have a Trello board for like a master list of all my books, but I also have separate Trello boards for my individual novels or series. And I'll talk about the series right now because I mainly have my mystery series going on. But for that, each tab is like the first tab is an overview of the whole series. So I have a list of ideas, I have a list of tasks of everything that I need to do and deadlines and dates. And then every tab after that, it's book 1, book 2, book 3, and so on and so forth. And the cards that I have under each individual book is I have a publishing timeline, I have a list of tasks to do, which is essentially the same as my master list. It's just a checklist of the different stages of writing, researching, outlining, marketing, blah, blah, blah. And I also have a character list, a setting list, and just basically everything, all of my notes that I have for each individual book gets thrown in there. And yep, each tab has a pretty cover image that has the book title on it with a magnifying glass as the background. And the overall background of my board is like a desk lampshade looking very mysterious and detective-y, and aesthetics are very important here, people.
Yes. It's the only thing we do, aesthetics.
Yeah, really. I mean, what else would we do? Otherwise we would just be writing, and that's silly. Who wants to write when you're a writer?
I think especially with that sort of sense of organization, especially when you get down to like individual books or a series and everything, one of Trello's brilliant features is the template option. And what that is when you create a card, you can create the card and you can add attachments, you can add a checklist, you can add descriptions. There's a lot of other things I can't remember at all. You can put deadline dates on them. But say you set it up a certain way, say you did a character profile, like a mini character profile card, and you had like, you wanted the detail of the, name, age, location, family, pet, I don't know what you put on your characterizations. What you could do is you could then turn that card into a template, and then every time you want to create a new character profile, like mini character profile, all you have to do is go up and click like it's make a card from this template, and then you give it a new name and it already generates all that information. The same with if you're doing a marketing thing. So say you have book 1 and you're doing a blog tour and you've got like a lot of checklists for your blog tour. What you can do is you can make that a template card, and then when the second book comes out, instead of having to recreate that card again specifically for book 2, you just you use that template, make a new card from it, and there's your blog tour information with checklist for book 2. And that has saved so much time. I love templates, and it's really easy to do and like tweak and everything. And I think that's a good, because I think a lot of things with the writing kind of happens over and over, like characters, locations, certain marketing things, like cover design. That is, finding cover artists, narrowing it down to maybe 3 or 5, picking the right one, going through the requirements, maybe doing a rework, then sorting out, and you've got this little checklist. So that's going to happen every time you get a new book coming out. So that's a perfect one for a template. So yeah, it has little things like that that just make it awesome.
Yeah, despite what I said earlier about how when Trello first came out, I didn't use it at all because I couldn't figure out how to use it. And that was mostly because I didn't feel like learning something new and I wasn't ready to learn it. And with the templates and everything that Ari just described, I have to say Trello is super user-friendly. Like, I mean, you create a board and then it'll pop up with your first tab. You can name it, and then you can either create more tabs from there or you can create cards. And when you create a new card, it'll have all these different options for you. You can write a description for it. You can add attachments. You can give it a label. Like, for example, if you have a book, you can, like my mystery novel, I can give it like a green label and say that it's published, or I can give it a red label and say this book is not started yet, and so on and so forth. And the other nice thing about Trello is that you can collaborate on boards with other people. And this is why I'm going to end up with 11 boards instead of 10, because Ari created the podcast board. So that's like a freebie for me because I technically don't own it. So, but like if you're co-writing a novel with someone else, you guys can create a Trello board together and you can have all of your book information in one spot, but you can also have a tab or card or whatever, something separate, and assign different tasks to each other, because you can assign tasks to people. So you can say, okay, I'll write chapter 1, and then while I'm writing chapter 1, you can do this sort of research or create the character profiles or whatever, however you end up, deciding to work it out. But it's a great tool for you to use, whether you're writing books on your own or whether you're collaborating with other people, especially during the marketing. So you can just have a list of, all the bylinks of your book and wherever you're promoting, all the different promotions that are currently going on, because you really should be marketing your book in more than one spot, and you should have multiple promotions going on so that you can reach a wider audience. And that's a conversation for another day. But use Trello. You can use other stuff too, but Trello's good. And it's free because writing's expensive. So go with Trello. You're welcome.
Actually, that's a good idea, because like you can have you could have a list with cards on that have got all like your short blurb, the bio you use maybe specifically when you're marketing that book, the social media links that may be different for if you're targeting something. I know some people have like different social media links for one series to another. I don't agree with that, but hey, that's what you do. And you can almost have like almost like a little mini press kit on your Trello as well, so that if someone's like, hey, I need your links, you're not going, oh, where is it? It's like, oh, I know where that is. It's on this Trello board on this card, and then you can just send that information. So yeah, it is it's a fun system, and I don't know what it is. Every time because you can grab the cards that are on the list and drag them around, and there's something really satisfying about that. Whereas if you have it on like a Word document or even like Scrivener, where it's like a lot of things are just like listed down, having this kind of like board in front of you with lots of little cards that you can sort of rearrange, and you can put them in different orders. So if you think, oh, actually I need to do the book cover before I do this, and you can shove it to the top of the list, you just drag the card up. And this, I don't know, it's because it's so interactive, it makes it so much easier and so much more enjoyable. Or maybe I'm just weird that I really like Trello.
No, you're not weird at all. Interactive is actually a really good word for it. Because it is satisfying, because it's very easy to have one board have a crap ton of cards, but then as you work on each card and you move them from board to board, even though you're not done with it yet, the original board is just getting smaller and smaller, so you feel like you're being productive. You're making progress regardless. So it's very satisfying, and it's nice to have everything in one spot. And I will have to say how you just mentioned adding a mini press kit and stuff onto your Trello board, because with the free version, you can add as many attachments as you want. Like when we first started doing the podcast, we thought that there would be a limit on it, but I think the max is like 10 MB per attachment or something like that. So if you wrote a press release for your book, you can add the Word document, you can add the PDF to it, you can add all of your book files in one place. Like typically you would have an EPUB version, a MOBI version, a PDF version, or I guess a KPF file now, because Amazon's got to be like that. And you could just have all of those files in one spot. So that way, if you're searching for book reviews from book bloggers, you can just easily download the file from Trello and send it off, and voila. And I mean, the best thing is too, like normally you would keep all of this information on your computer, or you would keep it on a flash drive in case, God forbid something happens to your computer. But because Trello is a website, it's there regardless. As long as you can find your phone or tablet or something to log into it, you have all of the information there. And also Trello also has a mobile app too that is also very good. It doesn't suck like some other apps to their websites. Like Trello actually works as an app or a website.
I don't like most apps. They don't seem to have the same functionality, obviously, of a website, but they have so little functionality that it's like, what is the point? It's just wasting my time. But Trello is one of the few that actually works really well. You still got a lot of the other than like what you can visually see, because obviously it only gives you this like one list at a time with your cards, and it's not always easy dragging cards from one list to another because you actually have to hold it and move off the screen for it to sort of pop to the next list. It does a lot. I can't think of anything it doesn't do functionality wise. So it is one of the few apps I actually have on my phone that doesn't make me hate it.
No, yeah, I'm the same way. I actually don't mind. Like, I have a ton of apps on my phone for all these different websites that I use, but Trello is the only one that I actually use. Like, I have all the other apps just in case I need to look at it on the go, but Trello, I will use that regardless, no matter what. It's awesome. Just go with Trello, people. Just do it.
Yeah, I agree. I concur.
Okay. I'm glad you concur because we're going to wrap up this episode now. So now it's your turn, you guys. Do you use Trello to organize your novels? And if not, what do you use? We'd love to chat about it, so tell us your answers in the comments below or on Twitter using the hashtag The Merry Writer Podcast. And we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And if you want to get some extra content, check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/The Merry Writer Podcast. You can support our show for as little as $1 a month and get some extra bonus content. So tune in every Wednesday for a new episode where we ask all the right questions. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
This podcast is brought to you by Felt Tip Pens. We love to color code. The music titled Inspired is by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under Creative Commons 4.0.